Central Intelligence Agency report concerning unidentified flying objects document listed as R0-0-5-6-0R0-0-0. The National Investigations Committee on Aerial Phenomena, the 1964 NICAP report released under the Freedom of Information Act. This report represents one of the most authoritative investigations of unidentified flying objects ever carried out in the United States, with hundreds of its pages devoted to and complex detailed and forensic examination by top academics, military officials, scientists and professionals from all walks of life. The report covers every known aspect of UFOs. Indeed, the 1964 NICAP report is so comprehensive in its analysis of UFOs it's no surprise to find it locked in the secret vaults of the United States Intelligence Services for over 30 years. Section 1 covers an introduction to the NICAP UFO report. In an article for Yale's University Scientific Magazine, dated April 1963, Dr. J. Allen Hynek, Chief Scientific Consultant to the United States Air Force on unidentified flying objects, said, "There are more reports per year now than there were in the early years of the flying saucer era. Unidentified flying object UFO reports have been coming to the United States Air Force at the rate of better than one a day over the past 15 years. However, the daily press no longer carries such reports, except perhaps as fillers, because monotonously repeated items do not constitute news, but it is just this repetition that is of potential scientific interest." Dr. Hynek added that the intelligence of the UFO witnesses has been at least average, often decidedly above average, and sometimes embarrassingly above average. There are basically two explanations for the consistent worldwide reporting of unidentified flying objects UFOs every year. 1. Widespread and presently unaccountable delusion on a scale so vast that it should be, in itself, an urgent matter of scientific study. 2. People actually are seeing maneuvering apparently controlled objects in the atmosphere. Of the two hypotheses, the second appears to be the more reasonable, and it is solidly grounded in empirical observations. It is also borne out, in enough cases to warrant far more scientific investigation by instruments. See Section 8 the NICAP electromagnetic report. However, the basic problem is to determine as conclusively as possible which hypothesis is correct. For obvious reasons, verification of the second hypothesis could be one of the most important discoveries of all time. This report is an attempt to clarify the reliable evidence of unidentified flying objects, and to remove the fog of mysticism and crackpotism which has helped to obscure the real issues. These issues are: 1. The factual evidence for UFOs and its interpretation. 2. Official secrecy and its effect on efforts to arrive at truth. Introduction to the NICAP UFO report continued. Under no conditions is this report, or any part of it, to be considered an endorsement, acceptance or other recognition of any claims and beliefs of a philosophical, religious or spiritual nature. Diverse beliefs in these areas are being expounded by many cults, including individuals who use the UFO subject for the purpose of self-enrichment at the expense of an ill-informed public. This report presents only documented facts on the physical aspects of unidentified flying objects, which we believe should be investigated scientifically. If our hypotheses are correct, they stand independently of, and do not prove, unsubstantiated tales of apparent rides in flying saucers. Our investigations have found no evidence to support these claims, but considerable evidence of fraud. This does not mean that we believe a meeting with apparent spacemen is impossible. It merely means that the public is being misled by some unscrupulous individuals making these claims, whose false stories are beclouding serious evidence. Introduction to the NICAP UFO report continued. NICAP and its policies. NICAP is a non-profit organization incorporated in the District of Columbia, United States in 1956. Our main goals and purposes are for scientific investigation and research of reported unidentified flying objects, and encouragement of full reporting to the public by responsible authorities of all information which the government has accumulated on this subject. The United States Air Force is charged with the official investigation of UFOs, but has practiced an intolerable degree of secrecy, keeping the public in the dark about the amount and possible significance of UFO evidence. See Section 9. Therefore, we have urged congressional hearings to help clarify the evidence and encourage a full scientific review, with the public being kept fully informed. NICAP's policy is set by a board of governors and carried out by the executive staff. Investigations are carried out by subcommittees, field units of specially trained and equipped personnel. Affiliates in 4 states also assist with investigations and public relations work. Panels of special advisors assist with evaluations of data. The executive staffs are the only salaried employees. NICAP is supported by membership fees and donations. Associate membership fees also cover 6 issues of the membership bulletin. The UFO Investigator, published approximately bi-monthly, members assist the investigation on their own and in initiative by submitting newspaper clippings, first-hand reports, and other leads to information. The current membership is approximately 5,000, covering all 50 states and about 25 foreign countries. A panel of foreign advisors, including lawyers, engineers, and other professionals, aids in data gathering on a worldwide basis. NICAP has a secondary interest in all aerial phenomena, and has contributed to scientific studies of meteors and ice falls. Data has been furnished to the American Meteor Society, various college and university departments, individual scientists, and to many hundreds of students at all levels. A recently formed NICAP Youth Council is encouraging young people to pursue a scientific interest in UFOs, aerial phenomena, and space travel. Introduction to the NICAP UFO report continued. Various beliefs and attitudes have been attributed to NICAP erroneously by some of our opponents in the past several years, that we are engaged in a vendetta against the United States Air Force for purposes of sensationalism, that we accuse the US Air Force of being involved in a vast conspiracy, sometimes, it is said, on an international scale, to suppress from the public the proof of the reality of extraterrestrial visitations, etc. These are irresponsible distortions of our views. We are presenting serious, documented facts as evidence of an important phenomenon, the reality of which is denied by the United States Air Force. We are dissenting from the official Air Force position. A phrase coined by the NICAP director, the silence group, has been misused by people on both sides of the issue. The term was used to apply to one faction within the Air Force which favors suppression of UFO information from the public. This view was supported in a book by Captain Edward J. Rupert, chief of the U.S. Air Force UFO project, who similarly described a continuing struggle between 2 factions within the United States Air Force, one of which favored complete secrecy. The question of whether the Air Force is suppressing information about UFOs does not rest on a conspiratorial view of history. See Section 9. We have no quarrel with the Air Force and its important mission of national defense. Our criticisms are directed entirely at its allegedly scientific investigation of UFOs and public information policies on the same subject. If the United States Marine Corps were responsible for the UFO investigation and handled it in the same manner, we would rightly criticize its policies on the subject, and for the very same reasons. It is claimed that the reality of UFOs has been disproved, but we are asked to accept this conclusion only on authority alone and without access to the actual data which would allow independent evaluation by the scientific community. We are asked to accept this conclusion in the face of evidence such as contained in this report, which has often been explained in strange ways. See Section 9. Merely on the basis of examining the explanations advanced by the Air Force for specific cases, one can find substantial reason to question the scientific adequacy of the official investigation. This has nothing to do with the motivation of the investigators, who no doubt are perfectly honest and sincere. At the heart of the matter is the effect of an authoritarian military system on scientific investigation. Science requires free and open discourse among scientists, individual initiative, and an atmosphere of inquiry not restricted by arbitrary regulations. Virtually all of the Air Force analysis had been conducted in secrecy, affording the scientific community as a whole no opportunity to cross-check and review the methods and reasoning used. Only end results have been released to the public, and often without explanation. These have been counter to fact. Introduction to the NICAP UFO report continued. Statement by NICAP Board of Governors. Although a large percentage of reported UFOs can be explained in terms of conventional objects and events, the residual unexplained cases constitute a separate and important problem. The word UFO hereafter refers to the residual cases. These UFOs have proved to be a consistent phenomenon, with significant new reports made each year. A large number of the reports come from reputable and competent observers, honest and intelligent citizens. Given the evidence in this report, it is a reasonable hypothesis that the unexplained UFOs are real physical objects, rather than the result of imagination, hallucination, illusion or delusion, artificial, rather than purely natural, such as meteorological and astronomical phenomena, and under the control, piloted or remote, of living beings. To date, serious scientific attention to UFOs has been limited by several factors, including the United States Air Force's practice of artificially reducing the significance of the data through the use of counter-to-fact explanations of sightings and the issuance of misleading statistics, the Air Force practice of implying, through its public relations program, that all available information has been disseminated and there is no need for further investigation, the lack of governmental recognition, through the Congress or the executive branch, that a scientific problem exists which indeed ought to be thoroughly probed. We believe the following steps should be taken to rectify an unsatisfactory situation. 1. The evidence in Air Force files after deletion of legitimate security information such as data concerning the capabilities of radar should be made freely available to any interested citizens. 2. There should be a congressional inquiry into the United States Air Force's Project Blue Book to establish 1. The amount and kind of UFO information in the files, and whether all significant non-security data has been made public, and 2. The scientific adequacy of the investigation, whether there has been a consistently objective, scientific study of the evidence, or whether it has been erratic and influenced negatively by high-level policy decisions, lack of funds, or other factors. The foremost question which remains is, what are the UFOs? The importance of these objects, if the above hypothesis is correct, is readily apparent. In order to settle this question, we strongly recommend that a much larger scale and more thorough scientific investigation be undertaken. Joining in these conclusions are NICAP board members. In a separate statement, Dr. Charles P. Olivier, President of the American Meteor Society, reiterated his reasons for serving on the Board of Governors. Dr. Olivier does not take a position about the nature of UFOs, and his prime reason for supporting NICAP is to help dispel secrecy and encourage scientific investigation of the phenomenon. He has stated, in serving as a NICAP board member, my only purpose is to help in forcing further scientific investigation. UFOs have not been fully studied scientifically due to suppression of pertinent data and subjecting reports of trained and reputable people to ridicule. It is possible UFOs might eventually have serious effects upon our planet and its inhabitants, either for good or ill. I have no personal theory to advance or refute. In view of the importance of the subject, no matter what the outcome, I would be glad to see a very full inquiry, and the old secrecy fully removed. What I want is the whole truth to be brought out. I do not know what it is. In preparing this report, It has been our aim to establish the facts to the best of our ability, and to present them for study. In so doing, we hope to encourage a more careful, detached examination of detailed specific cases. It will be found that some explanations which have been advanced for specific cases have been superficial, often glossing over details which contradict the explanation. Detailed interpretation of specific cases is difficult, and often depends on one or two facts. For anyone wishing to examine divergent interpretations of some of the cases in this report, we suggest two books which present the skeptical position: Flying Saucers and the U.S. Air Force, Lieutenant Lawrence J. Tackett, published by Van Nostrand, 1960, and The World of Flying Saucers, Dr. Donald H. Menzel, published by Doubleday, 1963. Both books argue that UFOs have been adequately investigated, and that there is no evidence indicating they are anything other than misidentified conventional objects or phenomena. Introduction to the NICAP UFO report continued. This report contains a total of 746 UFO sightings. The main chronology, see Section 11, lists 575 cases, with cross-references. Statistics based on the main chronology are reported in Section 12. The witnesses in 50% of these cases were trained or experienced observers. An additional 171 cases are included in separate chronologies, see Section 12, which show the major concentrations of UFO sightings. The reports come from 46 states, the District of Columbia, Puerto Rico, Canada, Mexico and Central America, 6 South American countries, 10 European countries, 4 African countries, 5 Asian countries, Australia and New Zealand, major oceans and numerous islands. States with the highest frequency of sightings, as indicated by the selective process used, were 1. California, 2. Ohio, 3. New Mexico, 4. Florida, 5. Illinois. Other countries: 1. England, 2. France, 3. Canada, 4. Japan, 5. Brazil. Of the 575 cases, 2 UFOs were observed in 41 cases, 3 UFOs in 30 cases, more than 3 UFOs in 81 cases. The remainder were observations of single objects. Richard Hall, Washington, D.C., May 1964. Approved for release, Central Intelligence Agency, 4th of February 2001.